Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Perchuk. I am an ambassador for A Small World. I've been enjoying that role for a few years now, but my day job and what I actually do is I'm a certified career and business coach. I'm a founder of MTV Coaching and creator of the Da Vinci Career Coach course. So welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be speaking about a topic which is very interesting to everyone, executives, professionals, people starting their businesses, or people who are just interested in art. And the topic is resilience is your superpower. And it's inspired by the stories about the great artist, Marc Chagall. So as I proceed through the webinar, there is an ability for you to post a question. You could post now in the chat where you're located. I always love to see people from around the world dial into these webinars. I love the A Small World webinars, very exciting topics, very interesting topics. So please let us know where you're dialing in from. My presentation will probably be around 35 minutes. And then I'm going to leave some time for Q&A because the information that I will be sharing with you today will be very thought-provoking and you may have some insights. And I definitely want to make sure that I get an opportunity to answer those questions. I will be providing my contact information at the end of the presentation, so you can definitely contact me through my email, or you can contact me through A Small World network through the portal. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. My name is Michelle Perchuk. I live and work in the New York City area. And today I will be talking about a topic which is very interesting to many people around the world, and that is resilience. And how is resilience your superpower? This presentation and the course that I created is inspired by great artists, and one of the artists is Marc Chagall. So what do artists and modern professionals have in common? Artists focus their careers on their passion. Artists will continue to create under any conditions, whether they are struggling or they have to work in unusual conditions or they have to work at night. They will just do everything possible to create and give their art and their talent to the world. Artists do not consider their work as work. They love what they do, and that's why to them it's not work. Great artists are an inspiration to modern professionals because they know how to incorporate passion into their jobs. They also constantly face challenges and adversities, and they're very versatile in changing their direction based on what's going on around them. How do artists do it? And how do artists do it? And how can we learn from them? Resilience in the new business environment. Resilience is something that great artists have, and we definitely need a lot of resilience in the new business environment of today. So executives, professionals, business people, just like artists, need to get comfortable with starting over. We need to embrace uncertainty because we're now living in a time of great uncertainty. We need to remain positive and craft a powerful story about ourselves and why we're doing what we're doing. We need to welcome change and transformation and look at it as something positive that's happening to us and not negative. And most of all, we need to learn how to manage our distractions. And what I mean by distraction is that negative voice that keeps telling us that we're not going to be successful at what we started. So let's see which artist mastered resilience and started over many, many times in his life. And what can you apply in his story, the story of Marc Chagall, to your own life? Chagall, make resilience your superpower. Marc Chagall, the journey of the resilient romantic. Many artists can be admired for surviving the most horrific events in history, and yet they always found a way to paint and to create. What is that special quality that keeps them going? How can they stay motivated even though things around them may be falling apart? What superpower do artists possess that drives them and gives them the strength to keep creating? No other artist other than Marc Chagall comes to mind when we talk about superpowers. He was a private and quiet individual, but deep inside, he had the strength of Superman. No wonder he always painted romantic scenes of couples flying through the clouds, holding each other in a romantic embrace, their coats and hair flapping in the wind like a cape of a superhero. His resilience and transformations are unimaginable as Europe was falling apart after 2 world wars. Remember, it was a time when you couldn't look something up on Google or text a friend. Communication was all based on letters, and as a matter of fact, social justice was non-existent. One could be thrown into jail unjustly, and then who knows what would happen. People disappeared all the time. Loved ones were lost, hearts were broken, and dreams were shattered. Governments fell apart, and revolution ravaged his homeland. As a matter of fact, Chagall himself was a victim of such an injustice. He was actually imprisoned in St. Petersburg, Russia, for 2 weeks when he was a young art student, just because he did not have a residence permit required for Jews. This was one of the incidents that led him to his decision to start over and move to Paris. Paris was a free city where artists thrived, and it did not matter what religion you were. Hopefully, there he could paint and live out his dream. He was right. Paris was amazing. The atmosphere in Paris was intoxicating. People were allowed to be whoever they wanted to be, and the young artist wanted to stay there forever. Little did he know that very soon he would be forced to leave the city he fell in love with. And once again, he would need to start over. Many job seekers find themselves in a position where they too need to start over. The pandemic created problems for professionals who were employed and then were unexpectedly furloughed. Those who needed to find a job were starting over in an environment which had many unknowns. Others saw this as a time to start something new. Regardless of the situation, there is definitely a common theme here. It's hard to start over, and it's difficult to stay the course when things around you are out of control. This is where we find inspiration and encouragement from an artist like Marc Chagall, who started over many times in his life. It's hard to believe how a person can be so resilient and possess so much energy and desire to reinvent himself so often. Let's take a closer look at his life, career, and struggles. Together, let's examine the challenges he faced and how he overcame. Chagall. So that was a glimpse of the course, which is composed of 9 modules on various artists. And I hope that you enjoyed that little historical video about Marc Chagall and how he started over many, many times in his life. Very similar to what executives are facing today, business people and professionals. Many people are starting over. But not only are professionals starting over, everyone is starting over. Even companies are starting over. Companies are reinventing themselves. They're reinventing the client base, they're reinventing their customers, their engagement, their products, and so forth. So there's a lot of change that companies need to adapt to. There are new mission critical roles created. So companies, as they are reinventing themselves, they also find that they have to hire people who have the skills that will get them into the future. Companies, all they want to do is to attract new customers today and give them value for their money. So organizations are investing in change and how to operate a business during these challenging times. Professionals are learning to do business in a new way. They're learning to manage and engage with their colleagues, with their teammates, with their managers, because we're now working in a hybrid environment. We're working from home, we're working virtually, and we may start going into the office soon. So career opportunities or business opportunities really need to be aligned with the new trends in the business world. And how do you do that, you ask? Well, my suggestion is you need to develop a plan and a strategy and not reinvent yourself every single day, but to commit to what you want to become and really stick to it. And the only way to do that is by incorporating resilience and dedication that is required to adapt to the changing world of today. So how do we do things in a new way? And how do we stay positive when so much is happening around us, especially news, world events? How do we manage these distractions? And how do we stay true to the path that we want to do either in our career or in our businesses? So we must learn to uncover real opportunities where change agents are needed. We need to receive real introductions from people who know us and who know our story and what our passion is. We definitely need to get comfortable to talking to more people, asking for referrals and introductions. You have to volunteer your expertise and not only look to take. Change your mentality from victim to winner. And I would just like to explain this because this is a very powerful statement. Many people over the last 2 years were always thinking, oh my God, this happened to me. Why did this happen to me? I'm the victim in the circumstance. But instead, it really would work for professionals, executives, and business people of today to start thinking of themselves as a winner during this time. That even though something happened to them, something transformational, then they're not a victim. It didn't happen to them and it kind of changed their life forever. But they learned from the experience and they're going to be a winner at the end of the day. Networking with new people who are supportive of your new projects. So we have our network. We have the number of people that we work with and the people that we interact with. But do you actually work with new people? Do you actually join new networks? Do you reach out to, let's say, people that you're connected with on LinkedIn and be proactive in engaging with people and introducing them to some of the new projects that you're working on? And when you do that, people sometimes hesitate. You're somebody new, they don't really know you. They may schedule some kind of a discovery Zoom session with you, but then because they don't know you, they will forget to make it to the meeting. This is where I recommend to send them an invite. Send an invite to a new connection and get into the habit of doing that so that you are avoiding the cancellations and you're really not wasting your time and their time. And to top it all off, it would really look fantastic if in the invite you would send a little agenda that would say, you know, I really intend to speak to you about these 3 topics. So this would show the person that you're serious and that you're not going to waste their time. This video is going to inspire you and show you how to stay positive during a changing world. And once again, this is inspired by the story of Marc Chagall. How to remain positive. Paris was a revelation to him. He was so excited about the colors and all the beautiful people. He was inspired by other artists and most of all, shocked by the freedom. He was starting over in this new place and it was exhilarating. We see this new energy and transformation in his famous painting entitled I and Village. It's almost a self-portrait which represents a young man looking into a face of a cow. In essence, facing his past and embracing his new colorful future. It's a creative interpretation of Chagall's life and can be applied to anyone facing hardship in a job search or a career transformation. In this autobiographical painting, the artist shows his commitment to starting over in a foreign land. His desire to change was so great that he even changed his name from Moshe Chagall, a traditional Jewish name, to Marc Chagall, because he could no longer identify with the person he used to be. This decision paved the way for his transformation, a talented young man from a small village into one of the most iconic artists of our time. It all started with one courageous decision to be someone new. He was ready to change and was dedicated to transform, if that's what it took. Change is not easy. It does take a lot of work. Working for free in a small theater during the revolutionary years in Russia really took a toll on him. He did not see a future for himself and his wife Bella there, so they left. This emotional decision saved their lives and allowed him to transform once again. This time he had a family to take care of and a future to think about. He thought life in Paris would be exciting again, so he eagerly returned, only to find heartbreak and disappointment. All his paintings were gone. He had nothing to sell to support himself. All that work was wasted. There was even more bad news. The Berlin dealer he trusted betrayed him and stole all his paintings. Chagall once again was starting over. He was left with nothing. He was down and out on his luck. Thinking he can escape the Nazi regime, he took refuge in the south of France, thinking he can lead a simple life and paint. But that too was short-lived, and the family had to flee before they were thrown into a concentration camp because they were Jewish. Again, he had to start over, but this time the family was moving to New York. A new city, a new country, thousands of miles away from his home. He was no longer that energetic young man in Paris. He was already experienced and middle-aged, with a new wife and a child. He was so worried that he wouldn't adapt, and he was afraid to be a foreigner in a new land. The environment was so different to what he was used to. He was lost. He did not speak the language and did not feel comfortable in a huge city. Deep inside, he was a man from a small village who enjoyed a simple life. He knew nothing about this bustling city, and he wasn't even sure if America had cows. All he saw was taxis all around. Then the unexpected happened. The love of his life, his wife Bella, passed away. His heart was broken. He couldn't imagine life without her and was stricken with grief. Starting over was unimaginable, but he had to do it. This was an extremely difficult time for Chagall. He was lonely and had a little daughter to care for. But through it all, he was still willing to take another chance and decided to marry again. Unfortunately, that did not work out, and he was disappointed. This time, he wanted to start over with someone new, and he was going back to his beloved France with a new companion. Her name was Valentina. Chagall was a risk taker in his life and in his work. He would commit himself to learning new materials, and his work would take many forms. He painted on canvas, learned to work with stained glass, and molded ceramics. He took on many innovative projects and always challenged himself to stay positive, even though his life was filled with such sadness. His optimism is so clear in his character, and he definitely carries it to his work. Chagall is a huge inspiration for job seekers. He's a true embodiment of a survivor. He would always remain positive and would not succumb to the negativity around him. Individuals who are searching for jobs or opportunities today find themselves with a lot of unknowns.
There's disruption in every industry and in every sector, but disruption doesn't need to be viewed as something negative. If Chagall would allow himself to be distracted by all the negativity and all the misfortune, he would not have painted his masterpieces. Don't let distractions get in the way. Things are not easy today, and it's difficult to stay motivated. Take it day by day and don't give up on your goals. As a matter of fact, embrace the challenging situation and face your fears. It will never be as scary as the first time. Talk about your fears with others. People will appreciate you being authentic and would be willing to share with you as well. Confiding in other professionals with similar challenges can be therapeutic and will ease your fear.
So I'm sure many of you were inspired by that video and see how critical it is to stay positive even when things are falling apart around you. If you're not going to stay positive, it's going to be a very, very difficult journey. So I hope that you were inspired by that small video and you could only see what this man has been through in his life, and he wound up having an incredible career and gifted the world so many beautiful paintings. So here are some action steps that I recommend that you can start implementing right away from some of the inspirational content that I'm providing to you today from the story of Marc Chagall. So an action step for people who are looking for new opportunities, looking to improve their careers, start businesses, start new projects, definitely develop a networking plan. And what I mean by that is a list of people that can be of service to you or that can help you with promoting your new project or help you in your business launch or in your career transformation. So having a networking plan is extremely important. And what I mean by this is really a list of people, going through your network, going through your LinkedIn, and really picking out people who could be of help to you. Research new opportunities and contact your network and talk to them about it. Be really authentic and disclose to your network what you're trying to do. Ask for introductions and referrals as much as possible. So when you're talking to your network, share with them what you're trying to do, and then always ask if there's anybody that they know that you think would be integral to you during starting your new project, or if there's anybody that they know that can benefit from what you're trying to do. At the same time, think about not always just asking for favors, asking to be introduced to their C-suite friends or CEOs or just influencers, but also take the time to offer your expertise so your network doesn't feel that you're using them. So it becomes a win-win situation for both. Don't assume also that people remember what you do. Have a solid story to tell. So if you met somebody at an art gallery, let's say before the pandemic, they may know that you're in technology, but they may not really be sure of what you've been up to over the pandemic, over the last 2 years, and what you're trying to do. So definitely develop a solid story about your journey as a professional or as a business owner, and practice it so that it kind of rolls off your tongue and you feel very comfortable talking about yourself. And just in case you lost your job, be authentic and say that you're ready for a challenge. Once again, don't speak about losing a job as a victim. And I know that this is hard to change this, to look at this situation as a blessing, but sometimes losing a job that you were not challenged in, or it was kind of not going anywhere, could be a blessing because you really weren't developing. So if you could be authentic about it and say, you know, over the pandemic, I lost my job or I lost my business. But on the other hand, this is what I've learned. People like to hear you being positive and not being negative. And that's why I decided to show that video. And once again, whatever you're going to say, just keep refining it. Write it out, record yourself on your phone, see how good it sounds, how connected all the facts are. Because if you don't sound prepared when you talk to other professionals or people in your network, it will not be believable and people will hesitate to make introductions for you. So how do you create your story? What's your story and how can you actually connect all the dots in your career, in your business transformation, just in your life? How do you connect all the chapters and how do you show up authentically to new people that you're meeting or reconnecting with your old connections? So let's watch this video once again about Marc Chagall, and perhaps this will inspire you about creating your own story.
What's your story? Just like each Chagall painting tells a story, make sure you have yours ready to share. A couple flying through the evening sky, gazing at flowers and farm animals below, may describe their love and passion. Your story doesn't need to be such a fantasy or a love affair. Keep it real and describe your life and your personal development. Offer insights about critical moments in your career and include how you overcame challenges. Share the moments you are most proud of and how they define you and what you want to do with that in your career path. Don't forget to talk about how you've grown and reinvented yourself, especially during the pandemic months. Employers may ask you what you accomplished during your time at home. Perhaps you were furloughed or your job was eliminated. Don't be ashamed to talk about it. Get in front of that and be authentic. Volunteer that information and admit that there's a gap in employment on your resume. It's not your fault that the job market suddenly halted, but show that you were resilient and that you did something about it. There's nothing wrong with starting over. It's how you choose to see it. Show your resilience and motivation in your personal story. This is the rare quality that will get you your next job. The ability to spring back from disappointment is a characteristic shared by many artists. Their strengths and toughness get them through the creative process. Tragically, somewhere along the way, their life ends abruptly, and what we're left with is their legacy. Your story can be the beginning of building your legacy.
So a few more words about creation of your story. I often, when I tell my story, I use this little magic formula that I developed, and I always start with saying, my story comes in 3 chapters. So the first chapter is when I was getting my education. The second chapter is when I worked in a huge Fortune 500 company. And the third chapter is when I became an entrepreneur and decided to own my own business. That's just an example, but it kind of shows the progression of who you are as an individual, and it keeps the person who you're talking to really interested. But beyond the story that you're talking about in person, there's also a story that you're putting out into the virtual universe, your digital presence. And your digital presence is extremely important because people check you out before they schedule a meeting with you, or even before they speak with you, or when you're becoming recommended to them. So it's very important to really leave a lasting impression through your LinkedIn profile. And if you are in some sort of search, either a job search, a business search, an opportunity search, I highly recommend getting the paid version of LinkedIn because that gives you so much more capability. Having a color photo on LinkedIn gets you noticed a lot faster. All the sections filled out will give you a gold star rating. So that's also very important regarding your LinkedIn profile. And then there's a new caveat in LinkedIn where you can record your voice. This really works if you are an international business person and there is a cultural way of pronouncing your name. It also gives a personal attention to your profile. So it engages the person that is looking at your profile. And you also now have a capability to record a video message to anyone that's looking at your profile. So I highly recommend using all of that, because that will give you more of a personal digital presence, and people who are looking at you will feel as though they know you. Highlight your skills that employers are most interested in. And what I mean by that is, don't use your skills, don't list your skills in a chronological order, but actually highlight the skills that you have that employers can gain from them. And I actually put together a list of transferable skills that employers are most interested in right now in this business climate. So if you're interested in those transferable skills, please contact me and I will be more than happy to send you that list. And then on LinkedIn, upload your resume, any kind of publications that you were responsible for, any research papers, your cover letter. The more documents that you could put up on LinkedIn, the better it is for creating an authentic digital experience for the person that's looking at your profile. And once again, another tip about your story is write it out, rehearse it with friends and family so that you feel comfortable talking about yourself. I know a lot of people find this challenging, but if you truly talk about something that you love, and if you talk about your challenges up front and you own them and you practice, it won't be so hard after all. And people will respect you for appearing authentic and willing to talk about some of the adversity that you faced. So definitely rehearse your story. And some takeaways from the presentation before we get into the Q&A. Some of the things that we could learn from a great artist like Marc Chagall is the ability to stay resilient. And how do we do that? It's by embracing uncertainty, accepting that the landscape, the business world has changed forever. And instead of really complaining about it, just accept it, see how you can adapt to it, and move forward. If you talk about what you're passionate about, then you really won't need to rehearse after all, because you won't have to make it up. You will be speaking from your heart. And as a matter of fact, when people hear that you're talking from your heart, they really listen closely, and then they won't hesitate to refer you because they will know that you're passionate about what you do. Talk about your transferable skills and how they show up for you. So those transferable skills, for example, is collaboration or communication. Share with people how you have collaborated with others, how you volunteered, how you've shared your expertise, especially over these months that we're dealing with the pandemic. Definitely get comfortable in talking about what you're passionate about. And it doesn't actually need to be about your particular job or business, but maybe some of the movements that you support, or maybe some of the charities that you support. It's very important to talk about what you're passionate about. And additionally, it's always great to talk about the things that you love learning about and the things that you would like to learn. So when you engage people about your own personal development and growth, they are willing to come and help you. Most of all, acknowledge that change is happening and we cannot change that. We just need to adapt to it. Network, participate in different groups, and definitely stay active. And lastly, talk about the most proud moments of your career and life. I hope you enjoyed this webinar on how and what we could learn from a great artist like Marc Chagall, and how he has remained resilient and started over many, many times in his career. I thought really a long time before I planned to put together this webinar, and I knew that many people can actually relate to starting over during this time, and how resilience is really the superpower that we need to move forward. I would like to share the information on the screen right now, which is my email. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My website is MTV Coaching. There's a lot of free content that I put out on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So if you are in a career search or in a job search, a lot of that content will be very beneficial to you. And lastly, this glimpse into the course, just the module on Marc Chagall, is one of 9 modules that are part of my Da Vinci Career Coach course, which is available on my website. And we will be sharing a special code with you for all ASMALLWORLD members. You could benefit from this offer. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And now I am available to answer any questions. We have a question from Natalia. What does resilience personally mean to me? Resilience personally means to me that I am able to persevere through any challenge. And any new project, any new opportunity that you start is always scary. But if you break it down into smaller tasks, and you concentrate one task at a time, and you stay resilient through every task, then all of a sudden the entire project comes alive and comes together. Please feel free to type any questions that you have. We have quite a few participants today. So please let me know if you have any questions about how resilience can benefit you. Perhaps you're looking to start over in a business right now or in a career, and you would like to get some input on that. If you have any questions about some of the other artists that are in the course, feel free to ask. I'm open to questions. I'm going to stay on for quite a few minutes. I don't think we have any questions. So thank you so much, ASMALLWORLD, for offering me this opportunity to speak and to put together this webinar. This is my second webinar that I'm doing with ASMALLWORLD, and it's always an incredible experience to share my expertise. I just want to thank everyone for dialing in from wherever you are in the world. Once again, if you have any particular questions, you can always contact me, and I will be more than happy to help ASMALLWORLD member. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.